Donald Trump, love him or hate him, is one of the most powerful men in the world. But what happens when a tiny island nation like Jamaica stands up to him? What happens when Jamaica, a country with just 2.8 million people, refuses to bow to the pressure of the so-called leader of the free world? You're about to find out. This is the untold story of how Jamaica humbled Donald Trump. Not with weapons, not with threats, but with bold policies, unshakable principles, and a spine of steel. From immigration to trade, from diplomacy to climate change, Jamaica did the unthinkable. They looked Trump in the eye and said, no. And what happened next will shock you. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see why Jamaica's defiance against Trump is one of the most underreported political stories of our time. And, trust me, you won't believe number 6. Number 1. Jamaica's rejection of Trump's deportation demands. When Donald Trump entered the White House in 2025, one of his first aggressive immigration moves was to pressure Caribbean nations, including Jamaica, to accept a surge of deportees, many of whom had lived in the U.S. for decades. Under Trump's zero-tolerance policy, thousands of Jamaican nationals, including green card holders convicted of crimes, sometimes minor offenses from years prior, were targeted for removal. But Jamaica didn't just comply. The government, led by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, pushed back hard. The standoff. The Trump administration demanded that Jamaica accept deportees immediately without proper verification of their identities or criminal records. U.S. officials even threatened visa sanctions under Section 243D of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which allows the U.S. to halt visas for countries that refuse deportations. Jamaica's response? Prove it. The Jamaican government insisted on proper documentation. Many deportees arrived with no birth certificates, no passports, no evidence of Jamaican citizenship. Some had been convicted of minor offenses decades ago and had fully reintegrated into American society. Jamaica argued that dumping deportees with no family or job prospects would worsen crime and instability. This was a direct snub to Trump. Trump's deportation machine relied heavily on instilling fear. His administration wielded the threat of economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation like a cudgel. Most small nations, especially in the Caribbean, quickly complied to avoid retaliation, fearing potential damage to their economies and international standing. But Jamaica, a nation proud of its independence and history of resistance, called his bluff. They refused to be intimidated. In 2024, tensions escalated significantly when the U.S. abruptly halted visa processing for Jamaican diplomats, a move widely seen as direct punishment for the nation's unwillingness to cooperate fully with Trump's deportation policies. Instead of backing down, Jamaica publicly and unequivocally condemned the action, framing it as an affront to their sovereignty and demanding fair treatment and mutual respect. The unexpected standoff forced the U.S. to the negotiation table rather than simply dictating terms, a significant departure from the administration's usual approach. The fallout. Jamaica's resistance had real and lasting consequences. Fewer unjust deportations. The U.S. was forced to provide more thorough documentation and adhere to stricter verification processes, significantly slowing removals and ensuring greater scrutiny of each case. Global attention. Other Caribbean nations, like the Bahamas and Trinidad, closely observed Jamaica's defiance. Inspired by their success, they too began pushing back against what they perceived as unfair deportation practices, a rare Trump loss. For a president who prided himself on bullying smaller nations into submission, Jamaica's open defiance was an undeniably embarrassing setback, a crack in his armor. The bigger message. Jamaica's defiance sent a powerful message to the world. Even small nations, when united and determined, don't have to automatically surrender to the pressure of powerful countries like the United States. While bigger countries with larger economies often felt compelled to bend to Trump's demands, Jamaica stood firm in its principles and ultimately won significant concessions. This wasn't just an immigration fight. It was a crucial test of sovereignty, and Jamaica passed with flying colors. Number 2. Jamaica's bold climate change stance versus Trump's denial. The contrast couldn't have been starker. While Trump infamously dismissed climate change as a hoax, Jamaica took the exact opposite approach, recognizing the existential threat it posed to their island nation. The island nation, acutely vulnerable to rising sea levels and increasingly powerful hurricanes, understood firsthand the urgency of the climate crisis. This vulnerability fueled their determination to become a vocal advocate for global climate action. In 2025, Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness openly criticized Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement, calling it a grave mistake with far-reaching and potentially catastrophic consequences. He emphasized that this decision endangered not only Jamaica, but all small island states whose very existence was threatened by rising sea levels and extreme weather events. Jamaica then doubled down on its commitment to renewable energy investments, setting an ambitious goal of achieving 50% clean energy by 2030. This bold initiative directly contradicted Trump's pro-fossil fuel agenda, demonstrating Jamaica's unwavering dedication to a sustainable future, regardless of external pressures. Why this was controversial? Jamaica's unwavering stance on climate change was far more than just a policy disagreement. It was a direct and highly visible challenge to Trump's environmental policies and his broader worldview. While larger nations, often constrained by economic or political considerations, hesitated to openly confront him, Jamaica stood firm in its convictions, proving that moral authority isn't determined by size, economic might, or military power. It's about principle, courage, and a commitment to doing what's right, even when it's difficult.
Number 3. Jamaica's refusal to cut ties with Venezuela. During his time in office, Trump dedicated significant effort to isolating Venezuela, employing a range of diplomatic and economic pressures. He demanded that nations across the globe sever diplomatic and economic ties with Maduro's government, aiming to destabilize the regime and force a change in leadership. But Jamaica steadfastly refused to comply, despite intense U.S. pressure and the potential for economic repercussions. Jamaica chose to maintain its long-standing relations with Venezuela. This included continuing to accept oil under the Petro-Caribe Agreement, a crucial deal that provided Jamaica with access to cheap fuel in exchange for goods and services, bolstering its economy and energy security. Trump's administration officials were reportedly furious by Jamaica's defiance. However, Jamaica firmly argued that its own energy, needs, and the well-being of its citizens came first, justifying its decision to prioritize its national interests over U.S. foreign policy objectives. Why this was controversial? Defying the U.S. on the Venezuela issue was an undeniably risky move for Jamaica. Many other Caribbean nations, heavily reliant on U.S. aid and trade, ultimately bowed to Trump's demands. Jamaica's bold decision to prioritize its own economy and energy security over U.S. geopolitical interests was a rare and significant act of defiance in what has traditionally been considered America's backyard. It highlighted Jamaica's independent spirit and its willingness to stand up for its principles, even in the face of considerable pressure. Number 4. Jamaica's tourism defense against Trump's travel warnings. Trump's State Department frequently issued travel warnings for Jamaica, citing high crime rates. But Jamaican officials fired back, accusing the U.S. of hypocrisy, given its own gun violence problems. Tourism is Jamaica's lifeblood, and these advisories threatened the economy. Instead of groveling, Jamaica launched aggressive PR campaigns, highlighting safety measures and pointing out that most tourists face no issues. Most countries quietly accept U.S. travel advisories. Jamaica's public rebuttal was a bold middle finger to Trump's narrative, proving that small nations don't have to accept negative portrayals lying down. Number 5. Jamaica's reparations push. While Trump dismissed discussions about slavery reparations,
Jamaica's government doubled down, demanding compensation from former colonial powers. In 2019, Jamaica's National Council on Reparations called for Britain to pay billions, a move that indirectly challenged Trump's dismissive stance on racial justice. Reparations is a third-rail issue in U.S. politics. By leading the charge, Jamaica forced a global conversation Trump wanted to avoid. Number 6. Jamaica's COVID-19 vaccine diplomacy. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed deep inequalities across the globe. When it hit, Trump prioritized an America First approach, effectively hoarding vaccines and leaving poorer nations struggling to protect their populations. Jamaica found itself in a precarious position. Facing a deadly virus and limited access to vaccines, the Jamaican government didn't hold back in expressing its frustration. Health Minister Christopher Tufton publicly slammed what he called vaccine apartheid, a stark condemnation of the global vaccine distribution system. Faced with this inequity, Jamaica made a bold decision. Instead of relying solely on the U.S. and Western powers, they turned to alternative sources for vaccine doses. China and India stepped up, providing much-needed supplies and demonstrating a willingness to cooperate on a global scale. This move was a direct rejection of Trump's America First approach, signaling that Jamaica was not willing to be held hostage by the policies of a single nation. Jamaica's defiance against Trump wasn't just about politics or access to vaccines. It was about something much deeper. It was about asserting their sovereignty, maintaining their dignity, and having the courage to stand up to a bully regardless of size or power. It was a powerful statement that resonated far beyond the island nation's shores. And that's a lesson the world desperately needs to hear, especially in an era of increasing global challenges and power imbalances. So, what do you think about all of this? Was Jamaica right to resist Trump's pressure and forge its own path? Or should smaller nations simply fall in line with the demands of superpowers? Is it pragmatic to align with powerful nations? Or is it more important to uphold national sovereignty? Drop a comment below. Let's get this debate trending and hear your perspective on this critical issue. And if you're as shocked and inspired as we are by Jamaica's bold moves and unwavering commitment to its principles, hit that like button and share this video with your friends, family, and followers. Let's amplify this important story and encourage a broader discussion about global power dynamics and vaccine equity. The mainstream media often overlooks stories like this, but you can help spread the truth and challenge the dominant narrative.